Hello, everyone at home. Hello, everyone here. We are live with our Monday class, and really, I was thinking of what would be the best um, way to enrich our lives, you know, and I realized that a good night's sleep would be one of those ways. So today we're gonna talk a little bit about that, and we can maybe remind ourselves of um, what sleep is for, what sleep is all about, what's the common way to look at sleep, what's the not so common way to look at sleep, and what's the best ways of getting a good night's sleep. Before we begin officially, we're gonna make sure that we can be heard and seen. If someone at home can just give us a quick hello. And here we go. Jennifer is saying hi, Eric, with a smile. Can you hear me, Jennifer? Well, can you see us? Hi, Eric. It's nice to see and hear you. Audio and video is good. Phil and Shirley already did. Vivian, hello. Um, Vivian is here. Looking forward to learn about rejuvenating night sleep. Very good. Okay, so we're good. Um, so apparently, a very big number of people, very big, large. How do you say? Large number of people, big percentage, or large percentage.
Big percentage, large number. Big percentage, large number.
Big percentage, large number. Many people. Yeah. Uh, at least in North America, over 70% of people say that they don't get a good night's sleep or rejuvenating sleep. They fall asleep during the day. They uh, are not focused and not receiving the full quality of life because of something that happens or doesn't happen during sleep. And as always, there's a few ways that I look for answers. One way is, of course, uh, to see what the children are doing, right? And to learn from them. Another way is to look at the ancient books and see what they are saying. And of course, the experience, the energy that I'm sensing to see how that all matches and whatever that overlays, it becomes interesting to share. And more so, we can now apply because we've developed that sensitivity. We know how to work with uh, energy, inner commands, inner keys. And so, when we look at infants, we know that infants need many hours of sleep, including napping. I think some number of 16 hours, right, at least in a day. The question is, what's wrong with those little ones? Why do they need so much sleep? Okay. Without answering that question, we'll move on. As we um, grow a little older, we still need a lot of sleep, but not as much sleep. And what's funny is that children are not easy to wake up. Once they're sleeping, and things happen around, and they don't hear anything. Very deep sleepers, right? And then as we grow up and grow younger, we seem to have a much greater sense of what happens around us while we're sleeping. And I think I shared a long time ago about a survey I heard on the radio that apparently people, that this is how they presented it, people who sleep over 10 hours tend to be more sick So their conclusion is that if you sleep less, you may be healthier. So sleeping over a certain number of hours may be the reason why you're ill. Anyway, at least that's what it sounded like. I'm not sure if that's what they meant, but that's what it did. No.
Like, where do you find the people that sleep more than?
Well, what the survey says that they found that people who sleep longer tend to be not as healthy as those who sleep less. That's the survey. Well, if you would, the same survey would say if people who do more exercise are healthier than those who do less. What is the conclusion? Do more exercise, right? So if the survey says that people who sleep longer tend to be not as healthy as those who sleep less, what's the conclusion? Sleep less, right?
You try to be on the right side of the statistics.
I'm trying to support the study. Thank you.
Who's sleeping 10 hours, retirees, which are older, so obviously they get sick.
Right. No, as we say now, here we are. I don't know what amongst us here who's sleeping too long or too many hours, and you're complaining I'm sleeping too much. Maybe somebody. And maybe somebody says, I don't sleep enough. I don't get enough sleep. Others say, why don't you get enough sleep? Oh, it's my lifestyle. It's my schedule. I don't get to go to sleep early because I have so much work to do. I have to wake up early because I have to take care of so many things in the morning. So obviously you don't get enough sleep. Others may say, I try to go to sleep early, but I can't fall asleep. Others may say, I fall asleep, but I tend to get up throughout the night. Others may say, "3:30 in the morning, my eyes are opening up and I can't close them." Anyway, so there are different reasons why people, observe. Now, science also says that the more developed they had to wait until we start, yes? We have constructions upstairs, if you can hear it. I'm not sure if you can, but we have some construction going on, and I was wondering when they're going to start. So anyway, science says that the more complicated, quote unquote, complex, not complicated. Complicated is a bad word, right? Complex is a good word of the same thing, yeah? The more complex the organism is, the more sleep they need. So a rock, tree, one-celled amoeba does not require as much rest as would say, something more complicated. The more complex the nature, the more rest it requires, which would probably mean that human beings, because of so much thinking that they do, they may find themselves amongst the highest percentage of nature that requires the most rest. But something interesting has happened at a certain point, since we're here talking about inner growth, higher awareness, greater unity. Then what they found that those who've started to reach higher awareness found that they suddenly needed less sleep, which is quite interesting. Up to some people report that they only need 2-3 hours of sleep. Very few alive, but they need very, very few hours of sleep in a sense, traditional way. They may need their body to rest, So we're talking about sleep, and we have to understand that there's different reasons why we go into sleep or we need sleep. I believe that little children, going back to infants and little children, because they're going through transformation, growth, what we call, not necessarily getting bigger, but they're actually naturally become more aware and go through stages of growth, that sleep somehow seems to support their transformation. At the same time, sleep is something that we tend to relate to healing of the body. So anytime that we feel that we're ill, the more ill we feel, the more sleep we need. We could ask the question, what is healing? And then we will understand maybe what sleep can do. And probably because of today's topic and who we are, I would say that it's very hard to separate the fact that the more busy our mind is during the day, the more things we need to solve during the day, the more tired we get, the more and deeper sleep we would need. Is that correct to say? No? No? Okay, how is it for you?
I think, sure, we get solicited and we get tired, but I think it's the quality of the tiredness.
I'm sorry?
It's the quality.
The quality of what?
Of the tiredness.
Of the tiredness.
Yeah.
Quality of tiredness, okay? First time for me.
No,
what does that mean?
It's the quality of the interaction that you have through the day.
Quality of interaction, what do you mean?
Is what kind of events, what kind of issues you have to deal with.
What would be a good quality, and what would you define as a bad quality interaction?
It's how you respond to it. So,
how you respond.
Yeah, it's how you respond to any kinds of events that happens during the day. If you are in a momentum positive where you match it and it's okay. But
right.
if it triggers you or if it brings you this conflict and etc., then
beautiful.
You get.
I agree.
Yeah.
So Catherine says that the more, so the quality of your response to life situations would define of how tired you've become. So the more reactive you are throughout the day, the more hours of sleep, the deeper sleep you would need, the less reactive you are through the day, right? And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I'm also leading you.
Yeah, because sure you will be tired, but if the interaction is not as positive and you don't feel, maybe you're not going to go and sleep. Your sleep quality is not going to be as good.
Right. Okay. So you would need more sleep, but you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, exactly.
So not only that you would need more, you also wouldn't even be able to do it properly. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. But right. So but hold that thought, because I have something to add to it, but I don't want to add to it yet, because then I will solve the puzzle right away, and then we're gonna have to start meditating right away. I don't know if I want that. Yeah. Let's see what do we have at home. How do you sleep? And Marcos says, I agree 100%. When I was really ill years ago, I'd sleep 8 hours and wake up tired. When I feel good, I'm averaging 4 hours and feel pretty good. I would like to walk in Marco's shoes from time to time.
4 hours, man.
Uh-huh. Anyone else wants to share their sleeping story, history?
I had
Yes.
something interesting. I used to sleep 8 hours, and then the children were born and they were small, and I was working, so I didn't really have 8 hours to sleep. So one day I decided to sleep 6 hours instead of 8.
Okay.
I didn't feel any difference.
Okay.
But it relates very much to what she was saying, that I was happy with what I was doing. I was happy to stay up with the children.
Right.
And the 6 hours were exactly the same as if I would have slept 8.
Right. Right. Interesting.
And it was from one day that I decided, like, starting today, I changed from 8 to 6.
Right.
Never felt a difference.
Never. Okay. Interesting. Now, when you have little ones again in your life,
When they're at our place,
Yes.
A lot less than then I don't really have consecutive hours.
right? Yeah, I know young mothers or mothers with young children would basically sleep when the children are sleeping.
Yeah.
To ensure that they right. Am I
Even when the children were small, I was very good at falling asleep, so they would wake up.
Yeah.
And because I could do that, I was waking up, not Ika, so
right?
I would deal with them and then go back to sleep, and in 2 minutes I could sleep.
Right. So falling asleep was never difficult for you. Jennifer say, I actually have to take medication to help me sleep at night, as I have a hard time getting my mind relaxing. Okay. A lot of people out there take medication to fall asleep because they have a hard time getting their mind relaxing because of something we've already mentioned, that there is a lot of things unsolved, unwelcomed, overstimulated experiences that haven't yet reached. Yeah. Shirley saying, in the past, when sick, I would feel tired, but not able to sleep well. Getting better would take a much longer time. Yeah. Right. Marcos says, I find myself at this point in time with so many challenges. I'm feeling inspired also with the help of the meditation, and find myself getting recharged after a relatively short period of sleep. Thank you, Marco. Vivian says, I believe the need of sleep is for a few reasons. One, is that your experience, Vivian? One, for body to rest, detox, and regenerate. Two, recharge your energy level by disconnecting from the environment and connecting to the spiritual world. Nice. Okay. Brad, how's your sleep? Do you have regular hours, or do you find that you sleep with less regularity?
I would tend to go to bed late sometimes.
Right.
That would be kind of, then I would feel like I got less hours maybe than I did.
Right.
But I don't see that as a sort of, I think I would recover then.
Do you feel guilty going to sleep late?
Sometimes, maybe months, but it's already too late. But in general, what about that, when you wrote that as a topic, I thought the only experience I remember was being sort of having a sense of, or noticing maybe sleeping better when there's that sense of having deserved it somehow. Maybe solved something, or there's nothing to, maybe I worked enough, so maybe I can just relax and have a restful night.
Right.
As opposed to trying to still make up for something that was not to the best of the expectation during the day.
Right.
I mean, having that night
Completions, you mean?
completions or some sort of, always that being sort of continuation of what happened during the day, and depending on that, having a better or worse experience.
Right.
And with meditation, I haven't noticed, although that would make sense that meditating would make it better somehow, but it makes everything better. So there was almost kind of part of the, you know, all the interactions that
Right.
that really determine.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Vivian says, yes, my experience. I guess that spiritual and emotional work took a lot of my energy, so I need a lot of sleep. Spiritual and emotional work took a lot of my energy, and I need a lot of sleep. Okay. Shirley says, I've noticed if I have high expectations of myself, for the next day, I have not slept well. That's very similar to what Radha was saying. Yeah. Yeah. Some years ago, we had an experiment in a journal that we were doing. And in that journal, based on some ancient teachings, I've recommended that before we go to sleep, we actually have to make peace with ourselves. And it's recommended. If we don't make peace with ourselves before we go to sleep, then we take that challenge into the night to solve. I mean, right? It's ours. So, ultimately, making peace with ourselves, as Radha was saying, also depends on your level of awareness. What does peace with self really mean? Right? So everybody would understand it a little bit differently. If I remember correctly, to paraphrase what we have done, it is very important in that process of making peace with ourselves, just before we close our eyes, is to look at the day and to see what were the things that we were good at, that we done well. What were the things that we haven't done so well? Or what were the things we never got to, right? Now we're living in a world where we actually have a long enough list that there are certain things we never get to for a very long time. So, again, things that we haven't done very well, things that we've done well, and things that we maybe never got to do. Anything else that we could reflect on from the day?
Gratitude. I'm having gratitude for thinking. Yes, it depends the kind of person you are. Because if you go through all, these are very good, you know, did well, didn't do it. But depending on the mind that you have, if
Right.
you go to those, you can trigger more stuff.
Unless I actually complete it and tell you how we.
Yeah.
Right. I haven't yet. Trust me, it's not that simple.
No.
But I was thinking of, are there other things, right? Because I agree with you, we're all different. But what we're not different at are the basics, are the core things, that which we hold dear. We're all the same that way. So I believe that if we can reflect properly to things we've done not so well, and haven't gotten to yet, if we resolve it properly, likelihood of getting a better night's sleep would be better, but it also will depend of how we've lived the day. So when we do get to that moment, we can be true to this reflection before sleep. More true and more true. So, interesting thing about things we haven't done so well. Let's say we said something to somebody we shouldn't have. Let's say we haven't said something to somebody that we should have. Let's say that we have overreacted. Let's say that we haven't tried hard enough. Let's say that we have committed to something and didn't do it properly, right? I mean, it happens all the time. So basically, to things that we haven't done well, right? If before we go to sleep, we say, okay, there's the day and there's the night and there's the morning of the next day. If we understand that there's a morning of the next day, if we understand the power of change, the power of new day, if we can respect, we talked about the moon, if we can respect nature to at least guide us that way, to say that, not to try to figure it out on a deeper level, but even to the basic level, to understand that there is an evening and that there's a morning. Then we could say that, okay, I haven't done something. Right? I promise to try harder. Right? Tomorrow. That's all. There's a new day. You get an opportunity to do it. Life is not about that, is it? Our true, we must understand that. That's why, we're here. Our true essence of who we are, it's not the accomplishments. Because after every accomplishment, guess what? I guarantee there's the next accomplishment and the next accomplishment. You couldn't have a baby, now you can have a baby, now you have to hold it through, then you have to make sure the birth is right, then you have to make sure you take care of it, then you have to make sure you protect it, then you have to make sure you educate it, then you have to make, there's no end to this. And everything in our life is like giving birth. Yeah? You like that? Everything in our life is like giving birth. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth doing, would it? So there's those. So it's not about it's about the essence of how we are able to free ourselves to both desire and love and protect without destroying ourselves and them at the same time. That's what we're after here. So the morning and the evening give us the opportunity to reboot. Right? Rebooting is the key. This is why in our meditations we reboot every single mindset. We reboot every single inner command. We reboot the system. It's like those drops we talked about with Catherine. We talked about personally about that. The power between the drops, not the drops that cracks the rock, not the water. Some hidden magical power. So ultimately, if we can have developed the patience to to allow the drops. Then outcomes will come, and then after the one cracking of one rock, we will find another rock we need to crack, guaranteed. And another. That's life, that's growth. Lucky for us, Peter said, I'm willing to wait another 85 years for the moon cycle to come back for that opportunity. I'll wait. I'm not in a hurry, right? So ultimately, with that perspective, if you haven't done something fully, and you say, you know what? Nature has given us this next day, not as an excuse, not as a justification, but as a true and honest intention and promise. Tomorrow, I will try harder, 3 times harder, to make it happen. Make that promise. Guess what? You're home free. That's it. That's all you can do right now. You're free to go to sleep. And there's the next day. What about the things you've done well? This is where the danger is. Things you've done well, you could be, a lot of people will say gratitude, yeah? Gratitude is dangerous because gratitude could come in, if not used properly, could come as a substitute. There's a justification. I've done so well. I'm so good. All those things, just think about the things you've done well. No, that's dangerous. It's not supposed to. Things you've done well, because there is another day, there's an opportunity to do them even better. You've done well, you're happy, you're proud. Your promise for the next day should be, I'll do even more of that. With that, you can go to sleep with that promise. Remember the King Solomon ring? That too shall pass? Those of you who remember, those of you who don't remember. It's very, very important to use those things that we've done well the right way. So before you go to sleep, to actually make a promise to yourself to do even more of that. That was good, more of that. And things you haven't gotten to, is the easiest. Just promise to do your best 3 times more for those things you haven't done. And you're free to go to sleep. Now, the only way to know if it works is to what? To try. How many times? To be fair?
Until it works.
Well, at least enough times to be able to have, not, I've tried it last night, it didn't work. No. Fair enough, you know, with all fairness. Yeah. But ultimately, that is something that is known to free our soul, to do, like Vivian said, to do its job during sleep. Now, to continue the thoughts of Marco, Vivian, Catherine, Rada, just to kind of combine them all together, because it was already said what I'm going to say, but I may actually give it a little bit of a structure. When we are reactive to different events in our life, when we feel that we haven't completed something and it's something that we either blame ourselves or blame others or take harshly or feel that here I go again, right? We hear that voice saying, here I go again. It is it's all part of just one thing. What we talked about, you said good way, right? Something like that, right? The good way, quality of the day. Quality of the day, when it becomes more quality and when it becomes less quality, based on, of course, our perspective. Now, we could later, we take our perspective because why our perspective may be a little bit different is not because it's different. It's because our perspective usually begins at the core, the energy, right? In other people's perspective, they measure their life somewhere later in the order of things. They measure it in in their house, in their car, in their clothes, in their bank account, in their relationships, in their headaches, in their body, in their illness, in their looks, in their proper aging, improper aging. They measure it in their whatever, in the mirror, whatever, right? But we ultimately go back and try and see how, if we were to measure it at the karmic energy level before we can see it in our everyday life, how would it look? And that's ultimately what I'm trying to look at right now. Our way of measuring exactly the same life situations. And in our way of measuring, we may recognize that if we think that there are many different reasons for life being one way or another, many different reasons, then we have to solve many things. But if we understand, and listen to this carefully, if we understand that ultimately there may be few or maybe even only one reason for everything, then we only have one thing to worry about our entire day. Only one. Are we in unity? Are we in unity? That's the only one thing. If we could just recognize that the more in unity we are, right? And that answers to Radha's and to Catherine's perspective, and probably to Vivian's and Sherry's. If we are more in unity throughout the day, we are less reactive. We're fighting less. We're disappointed less. We're angry less. We're distracted less. We're all of that which we see as a reason for less, then of course we go into our sleep with more. And the opportunity for the sleep to not have to solve that which is unsolved becomes more natural. And then sleep starts taking on a different role altogether. And if we are in less unity, relatively speaking, throughout the day, then the sleep becomes a different type of experience. It requires rejuvenation. In a sense, we fall asleep not because we choose to sleep, but we follow asleep. Right? We feel that heaviness. And it's not because there's a lot of energy. It's because the body can't anymore. We can't hold ourselves up anymore. Our mind can't think anymore. We can't focus anymore. We're overwhelmed. We're reactive. We're tired. We maybe become more aggressive. Maybe we become more reluctant. Maybe we become less empathetic. Maybe we'll become, or any combination of that. Towards ourselves, towards others, towards the past, towards the future. Everything is in a much greater salad, variable salad. It's not in unified, you know. So to some degree, those who are challenged with their sleep may want to consider solving their day and not trying to solve their sleep. That's ultimately where it comes to. At the same time, the advice of the reflections before sleep also starts taking on a completely different mindset. We can be ultimately more true to those declarations, to those observations, more objective, more, it comes from more peaceful perspective. And suddenly our intention is towards something instead of away from something. And that's what I really wanted to talk about.
It's more like a distraction to where you're going, but I'm curious. Some simple physical things would also help with this, things like diet and exercise. Feel us better, but yet not in the sense of the order of things that would just they would just do that. Yet I wonder what the place of it.
What the place of that is? Probably,
the bigger picture.
yeah, it's probably more simple than you think. Rather, it's the same way as you can't separate drinkers from the reason why they drink. If you had a test, you would say that those who smoke or those who drink would have worse health. But then you can't separate the reason why they drink from the drinking itself. I wonder if people would drink because they're happy, would they still be drinking so much? Would they be drinking themselves to the state? Or would that drink actually benefit their lifestyle? And I'm not pro or against. Right? So the same way, food,
what I'm saying, just kind of being proactive.
Food and activity of any other kind is also cannot be separated from your state of mind, from your mood, from your need to prove or not to prove, and your choices in life.
Yeah, maybe the fact that doing that choice
is an indicator.
It's part of the more individual.
Right. But I'll also say that those who force themselves into eating right and exercise may still find trouble falling asleep. For those reasons exactly. Suddenly we're able to separate. It's not to say that you shouldn't eat right or not to exercise, but forcing yourself into that may create actually a less deep and good sleep, because now you have two more things to worry about. I didn't eat well today. I didn't exercise today. Or I pushed myself against my own will. Right? So you may have even more things to disrupt your sleep and not less. So I hope that.
Okay,
yeah.
But also, like it's very complex because it's like definitely it's the unity of everything that we do, but we need to be able to be aware of that first, be able to work with it, be able to integrate it, and then not only like emotionally, spiritually, but at the body level, because each organ have their own way of working and dealing with that. So it's not like it all together, and this is why it's so complex, and sometimes we go one way or another way. We say, oh, if you eat this food you will sleep better, or if you do that it's the whole picture, and the whole picture is very different from you and because of our past.
Let me give an example of two organs. One organ is lungs, which is related to smoking. And another organ is liver, which is related to drinking. Those two organs are also clearly related to our responses to life. Anxiety, fear creates lung issues and breathing issues, asthma, frequent breath, not deep breathing, all kinds of other issues that come with it. And of course, anger, bitterness creates liver issues, which also inspire drinking. So, yes, each organ is related to our bad habits or good habits. And there's more to that. Every organ, and eyes, we talked about eyes of self-identity. Those people who are lost in who they are, they may find that their eyesight and all kinds of issues with eyes would also be affected. So there is, but what's more important is probably not to try and figure them all out. Because chances are we will never have enough time in this lifetime to figure it all out.
No, but you can, depending, if you know yourself, if you have a sense of, your body.
Yes.
There's tendencies, so you can support these tendencies and then allow them, with a lot of compassion and with a lot of love, because that's also very important. Not only, taking the remedies or etc. that will support, but it's the whole thing. You cannot, it's part of the puzzle. You cannot say it's only the organs or it's only the emotions, only the spiritual.
Is it? Is it a circle or is it a line? That's what I'm asking. Is it a circle or a line? Is it all equal? Or maybe there is a place where if you add this, everything else will be much easier to do. That's what I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say, yeah? Right? I'm not saying that one is less or more important because it's all ways of measuring where we are. And all need help at different times. We're not waiting until.
Yeah, but I think sometimes, people say, they are so focused on a particular issue or a particular ailment,
right,
that they miss the whole. You cannot isolate. We are like a combination of all these.
But we also can't wait until we figure out which part it is, and which is the best way of doing it.
But I think if we listen to ourselves, we know. I think so. I think
And then what? Then you can't sleep because you know.
No, no. Then you try to support and to give what this part needs.
So what is the question?
No, it's just that it's not not each part by itself that will make you sleep better.
I'm not sure. Sleep has nothing to do with parts. You the one who said, not me.
No,
You the one who said, not me, that when you have difficulty having quality of the day, then your lungs don't breathe, your eyes don't see, your ears don't hear, your mind don't think, your liver don't function, your digestion doesn't digest, and illness can arrive in all of them, but ultimately you can gauge it, you can measure it, of how it would be, based on your unique tendencies, of course, but in the quality of your day. So all I've suggested is that you're absolutely right, except it is important to recognize in which order it all happens. If you don't know the order, then it's like being in a boat and the water is leaking, and to say, yeah, I gotta get the water out of the boat. I need a better scoop. And I'm not saying you don't need to take the water out of the boat, but you have to understand that you have to find where the leak is. And all I'm saying is that there is a good chance that from where we are here, the leak may be, as you described it, and Rada described it, and Marco described it, and Vivian described it, and Shirley described it, that the leak is in the energy with which you live your day. That's what the leak is, originally. It doesn't mean that you should not take the water out, you should not address the challenges that you have, you should not do exercise or eat properly or heal the organs that are challenged. It has nothing to do with that. It's not a prescription for your, but all we must understand is that if you continue, no matter what you do there, if you continue not having a good quality of response to your day, and it's not going to get easier, then there's no way in the world you'll catch up by addressing anything. There's no way, because it becomes more and more and more to deal with. And problems will arrive in so many different places. More and more and more. So I'm saying, as you are recognizing and knowing yourself and all of that, it's important to recognize that the one guaranteed way to make sure that all of those other things do not continue pulling you down is to first get a better and better response to your day. More so, even get better response to your lack of sleep and flow. Even not to a degree where you can be so masterfully awake in your day. And I'm kind of throwing a clue here. So masterfully awake in your day that you won't even get upset at yourself for not getting enough sleep because of the thoughts that you have. And it becomes better. It's not a place. It's a very gradual, drop by drop, moment by moment. We don't know how long it will take, but the goal is to be consistent enough to recognize that that's something that you can't do without. Right? And at times when we take a remedy and we feel a little better, it may be a little misleading us because we may not recognize. We may think everything is okay because we slept. But to some degree, we wouldn't know. So this is what I'm trying to lead towards.
You said that we should have our unity during the day. Can you describe a little bit that unity?
Can I describe unity?
What do you mean by that? I have some ideas, but I would really like to hear your take.
Let's hear Vivian. Let's hear Vivian. What Vivian says. Vivian says, I feel gratitude and appreciation for the good things that happen during my day. Focus on the positive. Love myself. Tell myself that everything is okay and that tomorrow is another day to do what I plan. This is when I go to sleep at a reasonable hour. But often I'm also still too busy doing or reading or planning that I end up staying up very late till I get so tired that I fall asleep. I need to discipline myself to schedule and allow myself a time to prepare and wind down for sleep. Okay, that's Vivian's way. Okay. You see, Vivian is just like all of us, right? I can't answer your question. But maybe I can. When I looked at the ancient books, I wanted to know, usually there's a good clue there of when and how the first time sleep was mentioned in the ancient books. And, each story in the ancient books has more than one reason, and it has many levels of depth. But ultimately, the very first time that sleep was mentioned, it was at the time when Adam had a realization that there was a duality within him. At the time when Adam has recognized that in the shadows there was Eve. In his shadows there was Eve. Why am I saying in his shadows? Because the translation of the English version, the rib, right, also means shadow. So in the beginning, Adam was in unity. He was both male and female expression of self. And then at some point, there was a need of some kind for Adam to have a certain level of choice, certain level of independence, certain level of progress. And to have progress, you can't have progress without having duality. You can't have choice without having duality, without recognizing duality that may be already there. So ultimately, the very first time where it was introduced, sleep was introduced, was Adam was in a state of sleep when Eve was introduced to him. Eve basically meaning that the exact opposite of self, right? And what is the advantage to have somebody exact opposite of self? Or what is the advantage? Anyone? Giving birth to something new, right? And birth is growth. We talked about it a few moments ago when I said that we give birth to everything, and anything that is not being given birth is not worth having. The first time. So the birth of something new or transformational power first was introduced in sleep. So is the ancient word for sleep is change. Right. Change. Change, what kind of change? Well, the type of change that results. Right. And ultimately, the process of sleep has a purpose greater if we decided that we can have a greater sleep, if we have a greater quality of a day, or we're in greater unity, if we're not, if we're in greater unity, then we don't see everything as a problem. We're not as reactive. We are more positive naturally. We see the goodness in things. We feel that we're guided more often than pushed. We have more patience. We have more empathy, right? That's a state of unity. I'm just describing unity right now. So we see the good in everything, because even opposites now have a purpose to give birth to something. The challenge has a greater purpose now, where before it was not even desired. Now we seek challenge, because challenge now comes in the process of us going towards something instead of away from something. I'll say that again. Even challenge becomes needed and desired and exciting and positive. The greater, the better, at the state when the quality of our day becomes so good that now we are drawn towards things, that we are no longer pushed away from things, that our decisions to do things are not because or related at all to anything that is in our past. What is old in the ancient, in the Hebrew language? Right. Old. Right. Right. Getting rid of the old. It's the same word, sleep. What is, we talk about at a more advanced trainings, we talk about the fact that our connection with self and connections with others, or transformation of our speech, right, is the most powerful thing that we do, right? What is in the ancient language to sleep?
Yes.
Lashon. Lishon, which is tongue. Which is the tongue. And it comes from the same word as tooth, which is a process in which we change our physical reality, we process it to create energy, which is shen, which is a tooth. It comes from the same word as sleep, same word as tongue, same word as change, and same word as year, which is ultimately shana, which is exactly the same root.
And old.
And old. Same word. I'm not guessing. You know? Somewhere, somehow, those who have spoken the language initially didn't speak it because they had anything to prove, didn't speak it because they had anything, they wanted to be heard, didn't speak it for all those reasons. They spoke it because it was their way of connecting. And it was only a few of them. It wasn't the ancients who would think 4,000 years ago, everybody, or 10,000 years ago, everybody was connected. No, everybody was illiterate. It's today everybody more connected. But the few that were connected had a much greater connection than anyone today. That's the key. The few that were. The same way as in 4,000 years, they will say, oh, in the beginning of the century, they came up with all this knowledge, right? Einstein's theories and all the other theories that they could assume that all of us were that smart because it came from those days. Trust me, we're not all that smart, right? To figure it out. Not only we're not all that smart, even if they show it to us, we won't understand.
We know everything, so we don't.
We're good users. Anyways, so now, understanding that it's all about the change. It's all about the transformation, the speech. It's all about symbolic recognition of the purpose of sleep. Then we also understand that if sleep has such great potential, then there's a chance that we could make it better. But making it better would have to be something that we do in our day. And ultimately, we even use those terms that very often, even though our eyes are open, we're as if we're asleep during the day. So to some degree, if we were going to invest into awakening during the day, then we could probably have a much more fruitful sleep. Since we're sleeping during the day most of the time, not because of sleep, but because we're so blind to what really is happening, to the real purpose of our day, then maybe, this is what I'm trying to say, that maybe in there we will find the answer to our sleep, and suddenly sleep will not be just rejuvenating from the troubles of the day and healing, quote unquote, the ailments, but suddenly sleep would have a much greater purpose to guide us into continuing transformation that we began in the day. Continuing the transformation began in the day, not fixing something we've destroyed in us because of our, quote unquote, reactive, blind, not unified experience. And when we talk about unified experience, it is the same in our relation to self as in our relation to everything else. So we must understand that it's begins, and in our work, it begins and ends with the relation with self. Everything else becomes the nature of the way we would respond. First and foremost, we use the meditation time as a opportunity for transformation and transforming ultimately that inner dialogue, that freedom, that recognition within ourselves first. It's so easy to forget, so easy to be distracted by different things, organ systems, challenges, people, situations. So easy to be distracted by that, thinking we could find solution there, and forgetting that it's ultimately the purity of that inner dialogue. And it's not something we need to remember to do, it's something that would naturally become from practice, regular practice, nothing more. Okay, so what I would like to do is take a few minutes to meditate today. And ultimately, the meditation today would be to notice in the experience, where I talk about experience of self, right? So we're going to use the meditation to pay special attention to the changes that are happening in the process, instead of paying attention to the sensations, instead of paying attention to heaviness, lightness, to our thoughts, instead of making that where our attention is naturally drawn, to literally catch ourselves and notice the change, the moment of change. It's not going to be easy. because reactive protective mind does not even want to know about change. Dangerous. It wants outcomes, not processes. So to notice a process is not going to be easy, but this is what I'm going to guide you through. And to realize that as we do that, the change, as we notice and able to accept the change and notice the change more and more in our meditation, because there's energy and there's nothing to lose. You cannot go wrong. It's an opportunity to be free, to take your mask off, to do all of those things that we cannot do in our life. Then that change, that noticing of that change leads to unity. And that unity would lead us to notice more things that we are guided towards as opposed to things that we are guided away from. In other words, we suddenly would have sparks of idea that we would not know the connection that it has with our pain. It doesn't mean that it suddenly is so original just because we don't know it, but at least it will surprise us. And it's just a beginning. Like I said, just because there's some idea that you cannot find connection to your pain, it doesn't mean that it's right away leading you and guiding you. But it's already better than to clearly know what you don't want and what's uncomfortable. If that makes sense. In our meditation. Forget about your everyday life and your dramas and your judgments and your... this is not where we want to fix it. We want to bring our attention simply to the changes today, within. Through that, we will create an experience at the level of being, at the level of senses, that will help us to now see everything in our life through that new lens. Does that make sense? And even if it doesn't make sense, we will. Okay, so let's take 2 minutes and we will stand up for meditation. For all the dogs I loved before.
So what was that song in the beginning? That you played with the
What was the song? Willie Nelson. For all the girls I loved before. And it was a duet with Julio Iglesias.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's I think it's Willie Nelson, but I think Julio Iglesias helped him out. So we never really got to. Okay, we're almost ready to begin. You love that song, don't you, Vivian? Yeah, I love it too. Hello, Vicky. Okay, so here we go. Begin from a standing posture, please, at home and here, and simply close your eyes. I know I usually don't explain our meditation in advance. Today I decided to do that. Please don't let it stop you from freeing yourself. Just eyes closed and simply relax. Very good. Just as always, pay mental attention to your hands and wrists. No expectations. There's something that has to happen from within. No expectations. That's it. That's it. Trust your body. Very simple. This is why it helps so much when we do our meditation before we go to sleep, or even if we wake up in the middle of the night. And I know some do it because it instantly brings you to a state of unity, a relatively better state of unity. And of course, that helps us to both fall asleep and get better quality of sleep. Good. So again, what I would like us to do right now is to pay attention to the change of sensation, to the change of movement in the body. As you pay attention to the head and the neck, notice the change. Is it heavy? Is it light? Now, how is it changing? Are the hands tingly? Are they full? Are they light? And how is it changing? Just observing the change process, accepting the change process, welcoming the change process. It's very opposite to what we tend to do in our everyday, even though we may think that we're very open minded. Holding on to the familiar is what the mind does best. We may pick and choose different things we welcome, but now we're talking about a true unified awareness of change and allowing that at the level of energy, the pure level of being. More freedom. And as you pay attention to the change, notice how it's pulling you, how it's guiding you further. We've done this before, it's not new for us, but now we're purposely paying attention to that part of our experience. As you notice the change, notice where it's taking you. And then instead of stopping on where you arrived or what you noticed, you look for the next change. And you welcome it. Take your time. Take your time. I'm going to raise the energy a little higher. That's notice the change. Notice the change. And let it guide you towards something that you did not expect. And experience the unity in that. Remind yourself. That's it. Simple things. They don't have to be complicated. The body doesn't really care how complicated or how simple. It's the tendency of welcoming, noticing, and allowing, and feeling guided. It's that characteristic of response that we're looking for to gauge and embody. It's not about how evident or not so evident what you're noticing is. Actually, the less obvious it is and the more you notice it, the more valuable it will be, because that shows even greater freedom, even greater trust. There, much better. Thank you. I think now you understand. Here we were looking for a valuable change. Let's see. Now you have freedom to allow all change without classification, without judgment, without expectation. Just mere observing the change and letting it guide you towards what happens after. And then the next change. Shifting your attention from habitual to choosing, to choice. That's it. That's it. Even more freedom. Wonderful. Excellent. Notice the change of breath. Not how you're breathing, but how is it changing? It's not as simple. It's not supposed to be. Notice the shift in desire of movement. Notice where it's coming from and how it's changing. Notice the change of thinking. We have thoughts coming, but we're often focusing on the thought. Notice the change of thought. and then bring it back to the body, experiencing it. Full, oh, beautiful. Thought is one of those things. Thank you. You see how? Wow. Look at that. Notice the shift of energy. Beautiful. There. Excellent. Celebrating the change and where it's guiding. And then again, the change. Beautiful. Trust it. Again, notice the change. Beautiful. Good. Excellent. Okay. As soon as you're ready, you've done amazing. It's not simple. Requires some practice. As soon as you're ready, you can open your eyes. I'm going to have a very short few reflections and then we're done for today. So for those at home, if you would like to share, please do it now. This will be the time. When we said that the thoughts need, how as the thoughts are changing, I could sense everything shifting, right? Because we were so much in our thoughts. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Suddenly, thoughts during meditation have even a greater purpose if we notice their shifts. It's quite incredible. Yeah. And again, just to highlight, when I said that It's not important what type of changes. Our body doesn't care. What's empowering us is not the type of changes that we experience or notice. It's the fact that we're noticing. So even if you had a little bit of a breath through one nostril, you notice another nostril, the fact of noticing suddenly becomes the shift that we needed. That acceptance, that choice that we made to notice and allow it to lead us to the next. I know it's pretty advanced what we're doing. Pretty advanced. Remember, it's, for beginners, it's enough that they allow their body to move and agree that it actually moves. It's already a celebration, a reason to celebrate, right? Oh, I had a sensation. It's already a reason to celebrate. Now we're talking about things which are a little bit more. But as you understand, this is it. As we are here, so we are out there. And it's not an intellectual conversation. No doubt, we understand. It's not something we need to remember. It's something that we transform in the most basic, in the most seemingly irrelevant experiences. But this is the power of proper meditation. In the most irrelevant experiences of half an hour that you chose to dedicate and sacrifice, you free yourself. Yes. And what you thought is important meeting or important place that you can't miss may not be the place you need to be sometimes. You need to be in this most insignificant, quote unquote, that's where your life really will change, not there. But yet our values are sometimes. Anyway, regularity, that's all. It's not about choosing one or the other. It's about regularity, and then we fit everything. And this is for life, this is for there. Anyway, it's not. Marco, I felt the energy shifting, pulling me up. The down to the ground also, I felt the energy up and down to the ground. I felt energy coming from the base of my feet, then up to the hips, and then opening up the upper back. I felt heaviness and then lightness. The thoughts also shifted now and then. And yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Was it easy, Marco, to observe the changes as opposed to do what we always do, either not notice and just think about things, or notice the experience as opposed to the shift, the change? Was it easy or not so easy? Did you have to catch yourself and kind of make an extra effort to let go and allow yourself to notice the changes? Yeah. And at the odd time where you were successful, did it fulfill some was it fulfilling?
It was very intense.
It was intense, yeah. Good.
It's kind of easily see the changes.
Okay.
More kind of over time was changing, and that made the whole movement more fluid.
More fluid. Okay. Yeah.
Like it seems like giving one finger and then I see the change in it. Like, it was surprisingly easy.
Yeah.
I usually can't.
Right.
That was the kind of, the mindset that we normally supposedly use, the paying attention to the non-obvious,
Right,
was sort of maybe more emphasis of that,
right,
at the expense of maybe exploring the new, and just moving to the next.
right.
Pushing that. But it was interesting was that what you mentioned, when all were for me small changes, except that one when you noticed when there was like a big change,
Right,
like overwhelming change all of a sudden, and
right.
not like the gradual, very incremental stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The
It was
key.
very smooth, so I thought
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
just as easy, it's kind of easy to notice.
Right, right.
Well,
The key is that it's a dance. It's a dance now, right? In our sleep, there's a period in our sleep that is called dream. That ultimately is sometimes we remember it, sometimes we're not, but something that the mind is doing. And in that dream, in the ancient language, it's right, right. It's halom, but the same word also could mean lochem or fighting, same letters just rearranged, or mahol, which is a dance. So ultimately, there's so much to recognize there that a dream could be either a dance or a fight, which is ultimately exactly the same letters, just changed in their order, say the same channels, and likely their existence means that they're needed at different times. I would assume that the more times you are in a dance than in a fight, it would indicate the state of unity during the day. That's all. Yeah. And the root of that word is also chal, which is happened, which is made to happen, which is occurred, which means that it also highlights the value of a dream is not simple Netflix experience, but it has a value of making things come true in a very unique way, not in the way we would think them if we are in a fight, but more so complete them from the day, right? Making that true, which we've begun in the unity of the day.
Does it make any difference if you remember or not your dream?
What do you think?
Yes.
Why?
Where?
It would make more of a difference if the dream came from a unified, more unified or less unified everyday experience than it would be if you remembered it. Yes. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Shirley says, felt a stream of changing sensations and movements felt very present, hard to describe in words. Asking where does the change come from, in front of the eyes came to the awareness and then shifted to change comes from everywhere. Okay, interesting. Marco, no, I had to really pay attention and note it and then let go. So it wasn't easy for Marco. Notice the joy in the change, Shirley says with a smile. Phil says, hi, Eric. Notice the changes mostly when you said, notice the changes. You're not alone in this. That's why I'm saying things. But yeah, we reboot ourselves, right, with those words. Because my focus would change at that time. Lots of the different energy changes throughout the body. I felt more sensitive. Thank you. Yeah. When we free ourselves to notice and we make a choice of doing so, there's something intangible that is so much more powerful. Freedom in choice, not in flow. Are you following what I'm saying? Freedom in choice, not in flow. We would think a flow, flowing through, is freedom. No. Choice is freedom. Vivian, in the beginning, I was still in my thoughts. It took me a while. Then I said to myself, I need to get more immersed into the meditation. I consciously allowed myself to just focus on the meditation for the period. That's exactly what I was talking about, Vivian. Once I've allowed myself to it, or once you actually chose to, I felt the change. I felt letting go followed more the flow of moment. Then that's when I noticed the change. When I started to allow another change, notice I was more conscious of a closer zone to me. Okay, like more into the present, the now, the close to my body. Okay, yeah. The experience of this moment, ultimately. Experience of this moment. Thank you. Very good. Very good. And I will extract this meditation with an audio for you so you can do it. It was just 20 minutes or so. So it will be good to practice it again. And thank you for today. And have a good night's sleep. Shirley says, thank you. I like that freedom in choice, not in flow. Yeah. We'll continue to fine tune. Thank you, Shirley.